NSFW high school teachers, what juicy drama is going around your high school? Just last year, I had a girl in my 11th grade class, very bright, studious, had two other girls she usually was with, but overall not very noticeable. Thing is, she was absent a lot, to the point where she was only at school for a day a week or less. It was quite troublesome, as her parents didn't ever send a mail or write a note for why she had been gone from school, but as stated earlier, she was pretty smart, so her grades didn't suffer that much. I used to talk to her after classes to ask her what was going on, but she would usually just apologize politely and promise she would do better. Fast forward to around Christmas time and she hadn't been to school for 2 weeks. That month was exam month, and she was missing out on a lot of prep days she needed to be present at. Fed up, I marched to the principal's office and told him her absence was really ruining for her, and that I should call the parents and inform them of the consequences. As is norm in the situation, to my surprise, the principal was completely against it. Turns out, the girl was going to be married away to a man in her homeland against her will that December. The reason she had been gone those 2 weeks was because she had been picked up by child services and had been moved to a safe location. Shortly after, it was revealed she had been absent all those days because her parents wanted her to stay home and take care of them in due course. Not because she was sick. She was verbally and physically abused by her parents, and she was constantly monitored so she couldn't stay at school after hours or do other activities like hang out with friends. She didn't realize any of this was wrong until her friends at school talked to her about it. So this wasn't really drama, but it was quite a shock for me and all her teachers when we were told. It's been a year now and she's doing great. Her parents have gotten a restraining order and she got a little dog she saved from a shelter, but it's safe to say that she'll never have the life a normal 16-year-old is supposed to have. And that makes my blood boil, but she is very grateful for her new life it seems, and she's safe. And that's all that matters. Oh man. Okay, so I work at an alternative high school in the inner city. My school is surrounded by 8 abandoned houses, warehouses and a burnt-down church serving 100% at-risk students in a 1426 program. Yes, at one point several students were older than me. I've had about 4 years worth of drama, so I'll just give some highlights unless people want more details. About every year 3 students either get murdered or commit a murder. We've had 3 overdoses happen on our campus since I've worked there, all non-fatal at least. Thank God. We've had 2 school shootings since I've worked there and multiple incidents of students attempting to bring weapons to school. My first year teaching our preschool program was shot up in a drive-by, and to this day they still have to cover the bullet holes in the concrete with bookshelves because the school won't pay to have them fixed. You can see clear daylight through them. My second year teaching, a student was murdered in our parking lot before school. He was shot to death in between our school buses. I've seen a pregnant student get her stomach stomped on in a fight. About 6 weeks into my first year, we had a student stab a professional in the head with a pencil and break it off in their head. I have a picture of this because, seriously, what the hell? This year in a fight, a male student hit a female student in her face so hard her eyeball ruptured right in front of me. Pretty gross, honestly. Most recently we've been dealing with a student already in trouble for dealing drugs on our campus confessed to committing a murder 3 years ago in which the perpetrator was never caught. So now several staff including myself are witnesses to his confession and may have to testify in court. 2 A female student somehow managed to perform oral sex on a male student while in school suspension, and we are investigating that. 3 We recently had a 9-student fight in our computer lab which destroyed 2 computers and injured a staff member to the point of being hospitalized. 4 A former student was recently murdered when he attempted and failed to rob a local drug dealer. So yeah, my school is drama central. My colleagues often talk about how if we were to run like a hidden camera reality show in our building, people who watched it would think it was staged. This is real life though. This is what my students deal with every day, and all we can do is our best job to provide a safe learning environment for them. It isn't always perfect, but we do the best we can with what we have. Edit for those wanting the picture of the pencil in the head. Not a teacher, sorry, but my small rural school is pretty wild. This is just a sample of what happened when I was in high school. Freshman year prom turns into a huge debacle. One girl takes a pregnancy test at the dance and is confirmed pregnant. Screams at her sister for telling everyone and gets into a huge catfight on the dance floor. During the fight, one of the tweakers goes through everyone's purses and jackets and steals credit cards and phones, flushing the SIM cards down the toilet. No one would have noticed if he hadn't stopped right outside the door and started smoking on school property. Principal calls the cops and they search him. Dance ended early with a lot of pissed off parents and one pregnant girl. Sophomore year, 2 local guys became teachers just to flirt with the girls. Very obvious favoritism, following girls home, etc. One of them even flirted with me, and I wasn't a looker at 15 to be honest. They both left after a year, but one of them still has an on-again off-again relationship with a former student. Junior year, the graduating class's salutatorian got pregnant. Super sweet girl, perfect braids, set to go off to a big college and forgot the condom one time. Allegedly she was already pregnant when she gave her graduation speech, and her parents noticed she was really filling out. She kept the baby, had another with the same guy and went to a local college to get her degree. She's married to him now and is doing great, but at the time it was a big scandal. Senior year, my class's valedictorian got away with everything. She had a public relationship with a teacher, cheated on math tests and was a drunk driver on the weekends when she was a minor. She dropped out of college after the free year and shacked up with the teacher, but left him after he became abusive. She's back home with her crazy mom, taking night classes. The years of partying make her look 42 instead of 22. Crazy, right? But at the end of the day, the shit I went through is nothing compared to what kids do now with Snapchat and social media. Added a word. Happened to me last year. I was working as a one-to-one in the middle school when my supervisor decided that the staff at the high school was inadequate and a few people needed to get fired. To be fair, they did. Staff was horrible, so he asked me to go to the high school for a few months to assist with the transitions as he needed somebody competent to be able to work with students. Well, the staff kind of knew it was up and didn't like me being there, so they concocted a huge plot to get me fired. I recall one such incident in the gym where one of my students needed to be very lightly restrained and one of the really bad staff members came by and did absolutely stupid shit she wasn't supposed to do. I prevented this kid from full-on face assaulted her but still had good control in making sure he was safe. She went to my supervisor to complain about how I wrestled with students, put them into MMA moves and was hurting them. There was a big to-do about the situation, but thankfully my supervisor was confident in my ability, and the gym teacher, whom I'd never met before that day, was an upstanding guy who told the truth. I suppose I am also thankful the school had cameras in the gym so that the head of the program could review tapes and see it was all complete bullshit. From my understanding, this was a collusion between not only aides whom should have stuck together but also one of the special education teachers who didn't like change. Not totally sure, but I had 5 journal entries yesterday. We journal every Friday and I let students decide if they want me to read their entries or not, about people who are unnecessarily mean, people who are mean to the nicest people, how breakups don't give you license to insult people, how people hide behind Twitter, how having fun with people you love is so much better than being petty, etc. They're all from a group of friends. I also had 3 journal entries about the importance of standing behind your friends, how saying stuff that's true shouldn't be taken as an insult, how people are weak-skinned, how I am strong, how people need to stop playing the victim, how people need to mind their own damn business, how people have the right to say and do what they want and do what's best for them and not for others, etc. Very interested in the dirt when it comes out. I was really close to my art teachers, so after I graduated high school I'd occasionally go back to high school to visit. A year or 2 after I graduated, there was some intense drama brewing on the day I visited and I got to hear all the gossip. Apparently a girl and guy were having sex in the middle of class time in the stairway. They're really strict about students in the halls when it's class time, so if a teacher even sees you you're already suspicious. Sounds travel, obviously, so a teacher found them mid-thrust. The guy ran before teacher got a good look at his face and left the girl standing there with her pants down. Anything after this point hadn't been resolved by the time I left and never bothered to ask about a continuation because I don't care too much, but I'd imagine the girl ratting the guy out, especially because he ditched her and them both getting into major trouble. My high school was very strict and nothing like this happened when I was in school, or I didn't know about it in my own world. So that teenagers were so horny that they'd do something this ballsy stuck to me. I've already graduated uni for over a year now, so this was a while back. Sorry it's not recent juice. Names changed for obvious reason. Drama almost always centers on the girls at my school. The current issue is that Sarah is accusing Brittany of talking shit about her behind her back. Sarah is currently dating Brittany's ex-boyfriend. According to Sarah, Brittany is telling people that Sarah is a slut and a whore and cheated on her ex and that's why they broke up. Brittany is claiming she never said any such thing and that it is Sarah, actually, who is talking shit and threatening to beat her up. Brittany is also claiming that Sarah and a group of girls followed her home one day to threaten her. Sarah is friends with a girl named Laura. Brittany is friends with a girl named Ashley. Laura and Ashley used to be friends, but cut ties after their own guy drama when Laura's ex started dating Ashley. They moved past wanting to kick each other's asses last year, but nevertheless ended their friendship. However, the latest drama between Sarah and Brittany reignited the feud. Ashley claims that she received threatening Facebook messages and voicemail from Sarah over the weekend and has the voicemail saved as proof. Ashley also claims that her old friend Laura called her over the weekend and told her that Laura and Sarah's beef was not with her but strictly with Brittany, and that Ashley needed to back off the situation, or else. To complicate the matter, Brittany and Ashley currently go to a continuation school located on the same campus. They get out earlier at the continuation school than at the high school. Sarah and Laura are claiming that Brittany and Ashley are waiting for them after school for the sole purpose of talking shit to them. The current resolution by school staff is encouraging the girls to stop all contact with each other, including blocking each other on Facebook. I love my job. My final year of school, the goth thing was pretty much over and the emo thing was at its height. A couple of the senior kids still considered themselves goth and did not like the emo kids. Anyways, there was these 3 emo girls who were pretty much universally not liked by anyone. They seemed to be emo for the sake of the attention, I know, right, and would actually read other emo kids for not looking as good as them. They were pretty much the mean girls of emo. As I said, the goths hated the emos and the emos hate the emo mean girls. Around Christmas time, arguments were breaking out in front of everyone. One of the mean girls ended up getting jumped and left the school. There is more to it than that, but pretty much, she was one of the main reasons in why a big group of friends no longer talked to each other anymore. I think about a month before the summer, these 2 emo mean girls were causing trouble and running their mouths at the goths. The goths got a hold of one of them after school and pretty much beat the living shit out of her. She was actually hospitalized. The main rumor was she was thrown head first into a wall and had her eye socket knocked out of place. A bunch of goths were expelled from the school. The police were involved and all the normal kids collectively said WTF. It's all that was talked about the final few weeks before finishing forever. Well, it is spring break now. I go back to work Monday to hear about Chase. See, Chase Sr. is a pot smoker dreamer and somehow ended up dating Haley. Haley Sr. is the girl next door, has a 4.0, university next year, beautiful young lady with the world at her feet. Chase forgot about his date with Haley and screwed some loose freshman named Tiffany instead at a party. Chase banged Tiffany in front of everyone. Tiffany had crabs and gave it to Chase and Chase gave it to Haley. Poor girl was in tears. Haley broke up with Chase, but she is insecure about herself, so Haley got back with Chase. Haley makes excuses for Chase, but Chase will never change. So for spring break, Chase and Haley are going to spend some alone time. But I heard from Chase's English teacher that he and his friends are going to ditch Haley for easier sex. Last I heard from my daughter graduated last year, but FB friends with these bums is that Chase and his friends pass around Tiffany in the woods every day since spring break started. And they didn't use any condoms. I told all my coworkers and now we wait for Monday. My money is on Haley bitch slapping Chase. Added 1. I did not expect this to blow up overnight. And to those asking, yes, I will update this story after work on Monday. Edit 2. I am now a mod on our updates and Haley. Edit 3. I am now a mod on our updates and Tiffany. Edit 4. Haley hit Chase in the back of the head with a lunch tray and got suspended for a week. Chase is fine with a bump on his head. Tiffany had earned the nickname Blowfish for blowing every dude. And Haley has been flirting with Theodore. This is currently going on at my old Catholic high school. One of the most beloved guidance counselors and the head coach of the basketball team was very suddenly suspended without pay and fired. Like one day here, the next day gone. The reason? She's married to a woman. Turns out her sister-in-law got upset and forwarded wedding pictures to my school, who fired her because it went against Catholic morals or some shit like that. But the guidance counselor is now suing my school for discrimination, not because they fired her for being gay, but because they didn't fire other teachers for going against Catholic morals. There were divorced teachers, another gay teacher, a few who had kids out of wedlock, and one who got her nudes leaked. The president and principal were suspended by the archdiocese. I am not sure what's happened since, but I think it was going to trial. I had a girl in my class as a sub that was a complete nightmare. She basically told me that she wouldn't do work she didn't care, etc. She was oppositional to everything I said for no reason, and at one point she was up writing on the whiteboard and wouldn't sit down. The whole lesson was her distracting other students and just generally being a smart arse and enjoying that she had a sub she could infuriate. I gave her detention for lunchtime the next day and she just laughed and said as if I'm going to come. For some reason she got to me more than students usually do last period on a Friday probably, and I was stupidly angry at her, mostly internally. After class finished I went to add a behavior incident for her on the school system we use for disciplinary things. The way it works is you can see the student's history of incidents and refer your incident to head teacher, welfare teacher, deputy, etc. So it turns out she had recently had a bad breakup and her ex was now harassing her, her family and her friends. This includes turning up at her house in a gang in the middle of the night and threatening her with various weapons. The police were involved and there was an AVO put out, which is complicated. They go to the same school. She also has mild ASD. I honestly just closed the classroom door and cried at the hopelessness of the whole thing, and I didn't even end up writing the incident. I felt guilty for being so angry, completely lost that this was a reality for a 15-year-old kid, and terrified for what the future is going to hold for this girl. It's depressingly likely that she will end up a domestic violence death statistic, and there is nothing I can do to intervene. I am not a teacher, but the story of our school terrorist is worth sharing. He was a really strange guy. I didn't really know who he was before the whole thing went off, but people were always cracking jokes about him being autistic and a very open supporter of Nazism. He left school after completing his basic qualifications, GCSEs as we call them in the UK, and nobody thought of him once he'd gone. A year or so later, the news surfaced that he'd been found in the woods with a machete. When police went back and searched his home, they found a diary of really detailed revenge plans for a school massacre, including which order he'd kill the teachers and students. There were also weapons and materials to make pipe bombs. Videos of him throwing Molotov cocktails in the woods surfaced later on. This was all classified info because he was a minor, but everyone found out about it through acquaintances and neighbors since he lived near to the school. There was a super injunction to protect his identity, so we used to talk about him in class and make sick jokes about it to wind up the teachers. It was pretty funny to see the color drain out of their faces when you said his name, but I guess we were trying to make what could have been a horrible possibility seem less heavy. My shithole of a school should have looked after him better. He was a white supremacist autistic kid being bullied to shit, and if they had intervened it might not have gone as far as it did. He asked one teacher which gun he'd like to be killed with, and it didn't even come out today. I learned the trial. I am glad we didn't get murdered anyway. It's crazy to think what could have happened. Plus it gave us a couple of years of sick inside jokes. Plus I got to be on BBC News.